I'm rolling, baby.
You're rolling.
I am rolling.
And I love you.
I love you. Mwah. Welcome everybody. My name is Tiffany. I'm the Tipsy Artist. And today we are painting a beautiful watering can. It just became spring. And then of course, I don't know when you're gonna watch this video, but if for some reason it's not spring where you're at and you need some spring, this is perfect for you to kind of bring it into your life. So I'm gonna show you the inspiration. This is from one of my classes that I've done. It's been really popular. So this is a much more larger in scale version of what we will be doing today. So this is You Are My Sunshine, and it's just a beautiful little watering can with a nice floral design in there. We have something beautiful and new that we're very excited about. We have digital downloadable templates. We have the little details here just as a reference. You do not have to deal with that. That would be crazy to try to cut into that space. I do recommend you using a heavier hard cardstock. Makes it so much easier to cut out so that it has a little bit more of a firm feeling like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just place it here on the canvas, and then I'll trace it with a Sharpie. I really enjoy using Sharpies as well. They provide a really nice hard outline around the shape. So we're just going to get going with this. All right, so real quick too, with our supplies, want to make sure we've got everything in line here. So I have my little family of brushes. I've got Big Daddy here, and then I've got Mama, and then I've got Little Buddy, and then I have Little Bit. These are all in my supply list for you. Make sure you've got some mixing plates, a bucket of water to give those guys a bath, and then all of your paints. So we've got all these nearby as well. All right. Oh, and then a rag or paper towels, either one. Perfect. All right, so we have all of our supplies. We're going to go ahead and get started. First things first, we're going to be doing our background color. So it's very easy, very simple black. I usually always start off with Big Daddy when I'm getting my start here. So Big Daddy is your biggest brush. And then I've got black, pure black paint. All right, so for those of us on a budget, a lot of us on a budget, okay? I'm using just a really simple, easy student grade acrylic paint. It is kind of thin though, so I don't add any water to this. Now if you are using a much more expensive paint, a heavier bodied acrylic paint, then you're going to want to add a little bit of water to make it a little bit more fluid on the canvas. This paint, however, you can even just see it running down the plate. Very fluid, moves very easily. So we're ready to go here. So I actually just use a dry brush. I kind of push Big Daddy back and forth. He's nice and flexible, ready to go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just push back and forth here into the paint, just like that. This is also loading up my brush. All right, so he's ready to go. He's loaded up, and then I'm going to start to push this back and forth across the canvas. All right, now if you do start to see some little white peekaboo with that canvas kind of peeking through there, that just means you need to have better coverage. So technique is important, especially when you're using a thinner paint. So what I do is I actually just hold that brush more out to the side here, just like that. This gives me a light, gentle hand, and it allows a lot more paint to just rest right on the surface here. And this is very therapeutic as well. So one of the things that's really beautiful about doing these painting classes is that they are very, very relaxing. So if you can really kind of get into this, let it all go, and just push this back and forth, then you can release a lot of tension as you start to flow back into this horizontal pattern. By the way, that little pitter patter back there, that is my precious little doggy. Aren't you a little cutie pie? Now we're going to start to cut into the design. So we got to change up our game plan a little bit now. We need to do more of a cutting in stroke, so this requires a little bit more precision and control. So what I like to do now, is when I go to load up my brush, I give it some pretty hard pressure and I press back and forth here on the brush. And let me show you that in the camera. So that becomes very thin, and that allows me to do a nice thin line as I start to cut in. And then of course it's optional, but you can paint the sides as well. So that's also a nice finishing touch too. So this may be a great time to take a little potty break or get some wine, whatever you need to do. 15 minutes, something like that, to let it set up and dry. And then you'll be all set, and then we'll get started again with painting the inside of our watering can. Welcome back from the break. I went outside for a little bit. It is absolutely gorgeous here in Guthrie, Oklahoma. So it's bright and sunny, getting ready for spring, and my painting is now nice and dry. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to be coming back in with my Big Daddy brush, and because this is still a pretty large area that we have to paint into, and I'm going to be mixing up some turquoise. And we will be using cobalt blue, and like a cool emerald green, and then also just pure titanium white. When I'm mixing turquoise, I like for them to be about three equal parts white, blue, and green. All right, so I'm just going to take a little scoop there of each one to mix all of those together, and this will give us a really pretty turquoise. Alright, so now I'm going to switch back over to my little buddy brush here. Alright, then when you're done with the detail work on that, then you do want to make sure that you feather it back out, because I'm starting to see little tiny brush strokes from that smaller brush. So I like to come back in with my Big Daddy brush and just kind of lightly make sure that that all feathers back into the larger space here. Make sure I wash my brushes, get those all ready to go for the next step. Then our next step is what I like to call a pouncing effect. And this is so wonderful. It is so good for beginners. They love it. It always works out really great every single time. So what I like to do is I'm going to get my greenery ready to go, and then also little spots of color for my flowers. I'm going to have that ready to be loaded up on my mixing plate. But the first thing I'll start with will just be a very simple green. So I'm going to, there's my green, all right. I'm going to have my green and then my white. And then I'm actually going to come in and use my Mama brush. So here is Mama. All right, so I'm going to mix up that green and the white, kind of pull those two together, and that lightens it up a little bit. The other thing that white does, which is really nice, is that it helps the green have much better coverage on the surface. And the Pounce effect, I'm actually going to just hit on the side of the brush. You can kind of see a little test here. If it gives you a little bit more confidence to go ahead and test it on the plate, you can do that. And then I'm going to just start to hit that here on the side. And I'm going to fill in with this greenery. And then I want to make sure I've got some variety. I don't want it to just be all one solid color in there. So to make it look a little bit more natural, I'll hit into the white, the pure white sometimes, and kind of tap that into it. And then also I'll tap into that darker green too. Now I want to have some strokes that look a little bit more delicate. So I'm going to switch over to Little Buddy. And same thing, it's that little Pounce effect. I'm going to just come in like this, but I want to kind of hit it on the side, and you can see this is becoming a lot more delicate. And kind of looks like my hair in the morning. Yeah. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start to add in the flowers. So this will really start to make the color pop over the top. It's really fun. And this is totally up to you, whichever colors you like. So I like red and purple and some bright yellow. So let's get all that going. All right, so we've got our purple, our red, lemon yellow, and then our white here. So let's go ahead and start to play a little bit. Nice clean brush. Also remember it's dry. Very important, make sure it's dry. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to start in with some red. That's fun. And kind of push into that. And just kind of lightly tap in over the top. Now you'll notice you'll probably just be able to do just a little bit of this because our paint is still wet underneath. And so sometimes it can get a little bit too muddy. The bright colors of the red can get a little bit too muddy with that underlying green. I still like to push it in a little bit while the paint's still wet, and the reason why is because it does kind of give a soft, as I pounce it in over the top, it still provides a little bit of that soft blended look to where there's just a nice little fade of it going in and out of the bouquet. However, the little cautionary tale here is that you will start to pick up that contrasting color of the green with the red, and it's going to make it muddy pretty quick too. So the solution on that is just to have those paper towels nearby and just kind of give it a quick little wipe, and then go back into the red to keep that red very vibrant, and then just keep that going. Next step, we do need to go ahead and let this set up and dry now. All right, welcome back everybody. We had to go and dry our lovely Pounce Effect. This took a little bit longer than usual. In fact, I had to do my little hair dryer trick where I kind of hit it with the hair dryer a little bit. There's just a lot of layers there of thick paint, and so if you do have a lot of time, you can just let it sit for half an hour to an hour, or because it was a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be. But if you want to speed up the process a little bit, absolutely use a hair dryer. It is very speedy. Just don't put it on the highest settings. Kind of keep it more of a medium hot, and then it should dry it up pretty quickly. All right, so next up we want a few bright, vibrant roses to kind of pop through here, kind of be sprinkled throughout our little bouquet here. So I'm going to be using, probably mix it up between Mama and Little Buddy. So I still use a flat. And my base for my roses, I'm going to be using pink. So I'm going to have a little bit of some white. Add a little amount of white here to my red, push that through, and that gives me a really pretty pink color. And then I think I want my first little rose to be about right here. So here's the technique on roses, and you can practice on your plate first if you want to. But I've got my color loaded up in my brush, and when I approach the canvas, I just hold the brush just like you'd hold a pencil. And then I'm just going to press and then spin that brush in kind of a circle, a half circle there. And then press and circle and just kind of circle that out. And it's a circular pattern, but we don't want a perfect circle. We don't want that perfection, because roses, when you look at them in just this stage especially, they really just look like lumpy circles. So at this point, they're just kind of misshapen, and again, it has that really nice organic quality to it. So this is what we've got going on. And as we press, it does kind of push the paint off. So if you want to come back in over the top and kind of lightly feather it out a little bit with that pink, that's our first stage there. The next step, I am going to be coming in progressively lighter as I start to work in the highlights here, and I want to work down to a smaller brush. So I'm going to come back in with, let's start with my little buddy here to start with. All right, so little buddy, and I want a much lighter pink this time, so I'm going to add a lot more white, push that in. And then something else I want nearby that I think is quite lovely, a little bit of the orange. So it will bring in a nice coral quality to it, which I really like. So I do have a little touch of that bright orange nearby too. But again, I want this pink to be a lot lighter. And then if I want to touch into that orange a little bit, I can. That gives me a nice fun option for a little bit of an accent. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to push out a half circle stroke. I'm going to show you on a plate really quick so that you can really see it. Because if I just start to place it onto the canvas, it might become a bit obscured by what's happening behind it. So the basic shape of it is like making a parentheses and then another parentheses. Actually, I'm going to come in dark so you can see it on the plate. So parentheses, parentheses, or half circle, whatever you can tell your brain to make it understand that shape. Again, our light pink happening. And then it's that half circle, half circle, half circle. And then just keep pushing that out in a circular pattern around the rose here. And then I have my little orange here nearby, so I'm going to go ahead and touch into that and kind of just barely push that through, a little touch of that. Then I'm going to come in with an even smaller brush and pure white, so we're coming in even lighter. So I still need some depth happening here, so my finale will be to push in a little bit of just pure red right through the center. I'm actually going to come in with my little buddy brush again and the pure red. And I'm just going to dip right into that red paint, and then I'm just going to do a quick little push and then lift off. Then I finish off with a few shadows of the petals, so I'm going to come back in with that, that very vibrant bright red. There we go. There it is. Very fun. And then I still like to add in a few little fun leaves that will come in over the top. Some of this white and the green. Now, I want some white details that will start to come around the image. All right, so I'm going to use my Big Daddy brush, but I'm going to use the handle. So this is that fun technique where we do what's called it's a dot technique. Use the wooden handle to do this. So I've got my pure white here nearby, And I'm going to sprinkle a few little white dots. So I'm going to press right into the white paint. And then I'm going to press straight forward, and then that makes a fun little dot. Good. And then I'm going to come back in with my little bit brush again. All right, let me tell you what I'm doing here. So I've got my little bit brush, and this is when I do want to twist the handle. So I'm going to twist the handle between my fingertips. That actually does make the bristles spin into the paint. Loads up the brush, but it also spins it into a nice fine point. And then this will help give you more control as you're starting to paint into surfaces where you want a more delicate stroke here. That little white trick that we just did that's so fun, I'm going to come in, this time I'm going to use a smaller brush though. Using my little bit brush, I'm going to dip into that white paint, and then I'm going to press down for that same look to make those little holes. These are the watering can holes. And you can do this with white or black or any contrasting color that you like. So I'm going to come back in with my little bit brush. Definitely want to make sure that the brush is nice and dry, because we're coming in with that black, and you talk about something that looks like a mascara run, that will definitely look good if you do not get the water out. So dry it out really well, nice and dry brush. Only thing wet on that brush is the paint, and then I'm going to go ahead and make a few little thin black lines. Just a few in there, kind of adds a nice little touch. And right there. And then I'll add a few little strokes here. And just tiny little touches. A little sketch here. You can put in some lettering if you want. All right, take your pencil, and this will give you a lot more confidence. If you're feeling a little bit timid with this process, then definitely take your pencil and go ahead and write out the word here. So I'm going to do joy, just like that. I can kind of keep it right here in the center. I can see if I'm happy with it. I see it. You probably don't even see it in the camera. But I can see that I like it, I'm happy with where it's at. Then I can follow it with my paint. Any pencil lines that are still showing up, just make sure you wait until the next day to do an erasing, and they'll lift right off with an eraser. And I want to do that little trick again where I kind of load the paintbrush up here, little twist into the paint. and then final touch is to make sure you sign your masterpiece. So we are done, and you have your beautiful spring bouquet with roses, and you can find everything that you need to buy the digital downloadable templates on my website, tipsyartist.com. So again, that's in the description down below. And be sure to subscribe to our channel. We'll be coming back at you every single week with a new painting and a new digital download for your templates. So we're so excited you joined us today. Thank you again. See you next week.